Good morning, dear fellow scatterers of light. Indeed, if each one of us did not scatter light, we would be mutually invisible, despite possessing two photon detectors. In which condition, I wonder if those detectors would have even evolved. Well, leaving aside such hypotheticals, let me go on to record my great appreciation of this research community, the conference organizers, and the selection committee for the Hulst Light Scattering Award for choosing me to share the honors with Professor Andreas Make, of whose work on cloud scattering I had first heard about from Craig Boren, my Penn State colleague. And I'm especially happy to be the co-recipient of an award named after the renowned astronomer whom I met one evening at Craig Boren's house in 1992. Professor Van de Hulst and I have another point of inflection in common. I have come to regard his famous monograph on light scattering by small particles as my sibling. That monograph was published in 1957, the year of my birth. Perhaps that is the reason why I cite that monograph often in my papers. I regret that I am unable to be in Milazzo at this conference to meet all of you. It became difficult to make travel arrangements despite successful efforts by Antonella Iati and Rosalba Saija to find me a hotel in Milazzo, unless I would travel business class. My light scattering research has not been financially remunerative enough for that to happen. So I'm taking the advice of both of them to share with you some aspects of light scattering that have fascinated me. Right off the bat, let me say that I never really studied optics formally. I did study electromagnetism as a graduate student at the University of Utah. For my master's research, my graduate advisor, Professor Magdi Iskander, asked me to solve the boundary value problem of scattering of the near fields of a current loop by a lossy dielectric prolate spheroids. That was in 1979, when the issue of microwave irradiation of human beings was drawing a lot of research attention. I used the extended boundary condition method, or EBCM. The prolate spheroid had the rough dimensions of an adult human male, and the frequency was 27 megahertz. The foundation of EBCM being in the Ewald-Oseen extinction theorem, I fell in love with the spectacular beauty of this theorem, formulated in 1915 and 1916 independently by Ewald and Oseen. A few years later, I tried to extend the scope of this theorem to an isotropic chiral scatterer embedded in a different isotropic chiral medium. That made me realize that the formulations for an isotropic dielectric scatterer in free space are just too simple. Grander principles lie underneath. Discovering them eventually led me in 2017, some 38 years later, to extend the Ewald-Oseen extinction theorem to a bi-anisotropic scatterer embedded in a very general, but not the most general, bi-anisotropic medium. I continue to try to extend it further. After finishing my PhD at the University of Utah, I came to Penn State, where I became involved in research on electromagnetic fields in isotropic chiral materials. That was from about 1984 to 1997. During that period, I learned the basics of infinite medium dyadic green functions and their singularities. I learned about Lorentz reciprocity. I learned about anisotropy and bi-anisotropy. I learned about the method of moments and the discrete dipole approximation method. And I learned about homogenization theories for particulate composite materials. Infinite medium dyadic green functions became particularly delightful for me, Alone, as well as in collaboration with Werner Weigelhofer of the University of Glasgow, I determined these functions for several different types of anisotropic and bianisotropic materials. Every time we found a dyadic green function, analytically, of course, I felt cherubs were blowing trumpets in heaven. For some other materials, Werner and I were able to find only the singularities, but even these are helpful in homogenization formalisms involving linear and nonlinear bianisotropic composite materials. So Tom Mackay, a collaborator from the University of Edinburgh for now about 25 years, and I have persisted with the singularities. Very recently, we were able to formulate analytical expressions for the polarizability dyadics of particles that are not complete ellipsoids, but frusta thereof. Also, during the last 5 years, I've been able to formulate the extended boundary condition method for electrostatic perturbation by anisotropic dielectric objects. One other topic relevant to light scattering in my research I must also mention. This is of materials with architected nanocolumnar morphology. I conceived of these materials after coming across a specimen of a mineral named ulexite that was in 1992. That led me to conceptualize sculptured thin films comprising parallel shaped nanocolumns. I formulated a nanoscopic to macroscopic homogenization model for these thin films, and I solved several boundary value problems for light scattering by them. I was able to find matrix green functions for propagation inside chiral sculptured thin films. From 2008, these films are made and optically characterized in my laboratory by my team members. The concept has been extended from the nanoscale to the micrometer scale with films made of a polymer named parylene C. I have also done research on light scattering by fractal screens and by multi-controllable metasurfaces. New types of electromagnetic surface waves have been formulated in my research. Surface multiplasmonic waves, Diakonov-Tam waves, and Euler-Zenek surface waves have been experimentally confirmed at optical frequencies. In conclusion, I thank my wife, without whom I would be able to accomplish very little, if anything. I thank the conference organizers for giving me this opportunity to tell you about my fascination with light scattering, and I thank you all for listening to me.